Jeremy. So could you just tell me a little bit about what you're doing, the video game, stuff like that?
Sure. So Sentinels of the Multiverse is a cooperative superhero comic book themed card game where you play as a team of superpowered individuals trying to take down a villain in a dynamic environment. It started life as a card game on the tabletop made by a company called Greater Than Games from St. Louis. And we met them about a month after they created the card game. We fell in love with the property. We basically bugged them for 2 years until we convinced them to let us make it into a video game. What we then did was we took the exact game from the tabletop and adapted it into a video game. So you play it as a digital card game. It's not a new game. It's not a game based on the concept. It is the exact card game. You're just playing it digitally. The core game comes with 10 heroes, 4 villains, and 4 environments, which can actually give you a total of about 9,000 unique battles, depending on how you put them all together. And it is a truly cooperative game. 3 to 5 players each take on the role of one of the heroes, and you either win or lose together, because you're fighting against the villain, which is a deck that plays itself. The game has been out as a digital game since the end of 2014. All through 2015, we've been working on adding expansion content to it, because the tabletop game actually has about 10 big box expansions and a bunch of little mini expansions as well to keep the story going and moving along. And so that's what we've been working on all through 2015.
And you're dressed as somebody, so who are you dressed as?
So yeah, I'm actually kind of half and half. So if you can see right here, this is a guy named Baron Blade. He's one of the sort of quintessential mad scientist villains of the game. I'm sort of dressed as Baron Blade. What I'm actually dressed as is Luminary, which is an alternate Baron Blade from a different time dimension who's actually a good guy. That's why I don't have the scar that you can see on his eye here, because I never had the battle that gave me that scar. But I did, however, lose my arm and had to have a robot arm installed. So yeah, and I'm actually kind of a mix between the two of them, because I've got the coat for the bad guy and I've got the goggles, but then I've got the arm, and yeah, so.
So you were talking, this is a cooperative game. I'm guessing is online, or?
Yeah, so you can actually play the video game several different ways. You can play it in what we call solitaire mode, where you can sit down and actually control all of the heroes in order, but you can also play online, and the game is available for iPad, Android tablets, as well as Steam, and we support cross-platform multiplayer. So Steam players can play with Android players, can play with iOS players, it doesn't matter, you can all just play with each other. And like I said, it is a fully online experience, so that you can actually set it up so that if there's 5 players, you can each control 1 hero. You can have two different people that are each playing 2 heroes. However you want to set it up is completely up to you. We've given you as many options as we could think of.
And then you were talking about so what's the, ultimate goal here? You just beat the bad guy and save the day?
Pretty much. Each villain has some nefarious plot that they're trying to hatch, and your job as the heroes are to stop them. However, the game does have an endpoint. It's the original creator of the tabletop game, Christopher Bedell. He likes to say that he tells stories in game form. And for him, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the story of the multiverse does have an end. In fact, it's coming next year, and it's called Oblivion. The Oblivion event is where this nefarious evil that you've been following along in the background of the story is finally going to reveal himself and try to end the multiverse as we know it, unless our heroes can stop it. And so that's one of the final expansions that they haven't even released for the tabletop, but that we're going to be working on with them to bring to the video game. That's going to be part of what we call Season 2, which is what we're actually kickstarting right now. We're trying to raise about $80,000. We raised 46 in the first week, so we think we're well on our way to doing that, but we have at least 4 more big expansions to do to finish the whole story of the multiverse, and that's what we're working towards.
Awesome. So, for all of these bad guys, you say they all have their own nefarious plots.
Yeah.
Would you say these plots are kind of based off of, like, how are some of them wonky, or some of them like James Bondy type villains, or some of them other?
There's actually a really good mix. Baron Blade's plot is actually he's trying to pull the moon down and destroy 90% of the population so he can rule over whatever remains. But then there's also sort of a mob boss called the Chairman, who is sort of pulling the strings from the shadows. There's also some supernatural challenges. There's a demon god called Gloomweaver, who has these minions that he sends out into the earth. You've also got the Ennead, which is actually a group of 9 villains that all work together as a team that you have to destroy. They're based on the Egyptian gods and goddesses. And yeah, and there's just a ton of different ones. You've got a crazed serial killer, you've got a mutated rat person. So, the different types of challenges you can take on are really varied. So you can probably find one that you like no matter what type of story you like to tell.
And then as you're playing, let's say, obviously there's a lot of replay here.
Yeah.
So for each one, are you uncovering a little bit more of the story, what's going on, a little bit of the back plot?
Yeah, so each of the cards in the game actually has what we call flavor text on the bottom, which is a quote from a hero or a villain or an environment from an actual comic book. Now, those comic books haven't actually been written. They all exist in the head of Christopher, who came up with the story. But if you read all those flavor texts, and you can start to piece together the story of the multiverse. And in fact, that's what a lot of fans have done, is they've gone through that flavor text, figure out, okay, if this was from the Freedom 5 Annual number 5, and this one was from before that, we can figure out, oh, well, this is when Legacy must have met the Wraith, and all this. So the story exists. It's in Christopher's mind. He just hasn't actually written it down as comics yet. So.
Awesome. All right, thank you.